I'm Ellen Snoeyenbos, and I'm the Library Director at the West Bridgewater Public Library. Today I'm going to be talking specifically to Mr. Peckerell's ELA classes over at the Howard School. We're doing a collaboration with the Howard School in that we are providing book talks and instruction on how to get books for reading pleasure into the hands of all the kids in West Bridgewater. Mr. Peckerell would love his sixth graders to become really strong readers and to read for pleasure. And the best way to become a strong reader is to read. Some of the books I'm going to be telling you about are going to be a lot of fun for you to share with your families. We've got books that are funny, books that are thrillers, books that are based on actual true stories. And it's a wide range of books. Some of the books are in graphic novel format, and others are in regular print. Now, what I want to do first is tell you that on your phone, we're going to be using a lot of apps to help you track your reading. One of the apps that you may remember from the summer is Beanstack. And then another app is the Sales Mobile app, which is how you place a hold on a book from the network. If we don't have the book in West Bridgewater, you don't have to be dismayed. You can order a book through the mobile app from another library in the Sales Network. And then the other two apps that I will be telling you about are Libby, which is for audiobooks and ebooks, and Hoopla, which is another wonderful application to connect you with digital formats for books. So here is my presentation on the apps. If you have a smartphone, you have everything you need to download books or movies or audiobooks or access the Sales Network catalog at your fingertips. This is how you would do it. If you're looking for the Sales Mobile app, it looks like this. And this is the way you get into the Library Network catalog where you would order a physical book. I can, once you're in, you can sign up with your library card number. You can look at your checkouts. You can look and see what you have on hold. You can look for a book. Let's say I want to order a book that I have heard about through this awesome book talk. And I'm going to order, let's see, Eventown. Oops, let's spell it right. And then I'm going to say done, and it's going to look for that. There it is, okay? Now, there's the electronic resource, and there's the book. Now, let's look at the electronic resource. You can download it now as a digital edition, so you can read it on your phone, or you can get the book itself, which is right here. You can order this, and you can get it from any number of libraries and have it delivered to the West Bridgewater Public Library by placing a hold. Let's do that right now. Okay, so pick up locations, West Bridgewater. So we're going to place that hold. And then you'll get either a call or a text or an email when that book comes to West Bridgewater, and you can pick it up here. So that's the way the catalog works. It's really pretty cool. Then if you, and just another thing is that you can keep your library barcode down there, which is really convenient. Okay, so let's say that I want to download an ebook, and I want to get it from, you can download it from either Libby or Hoopla. This is the Libby app, which it used to be called Overdrive. Okay, so I have actually downloaded a bunch of things that I was checking on before. So I'm going to look in the library and see what I'd like to get. I'm going to search for let's do Tiny Infinities. Tiny Infinities. There it is. Let's see. Oh, it doesn't seem to have it there. Everything? I'm not quite sure why that's not showing up. Let's do another book. Oh, wait, we want to go into, let's see, what about Patina is one of the track books. There's Patina. You can place a hold on the, you can see that this is the audio book and this is the ebook. So let's place a hold on the ebook. It's going to be popular. So you can just place the hold there, and you'll be notified when that becomes available, and you can download it to your phone or your laptop or whatever, wherever you want to have it located. Okay, let's go back and do another book. Let's say we want, let's go to Kitchens of the Great Midwest. That's a fun book. Look, now I see this book is available. That's why it says borrow. Okay, now here's the audiobook. You could borrow the audiobook or you could borrow the ebook. So let's borrow the ebook, okay? So now I'm downloading the ebook to my phone. And then I can just read it. It has to download all the way, so it's not completely fully downloaded yet, but it will be. Now, if I wanted to order a book through Hoopla, the nice thing about Hoopla is that you can order, it's a multi-user program. So if it has the book, like this looks like a really cool one, Miles Morales. I think I've already borrowed that one. And that's, even if I borrow it, somebody else can borrow it at the same time, which is really pretty cool. Okay, so let's borrow a book, a regular book, not just an audio. These are the ebooks. You can limit yourself to comics, ebooks, audiobooks. If we go into ebooks, let's do a search for, let's do To Kill a Mockingbird. To Kill a Mockingbird. Okay, so here's To Kill a Mockingbird. They've got it as an audiobook. But we want an ebook. I guess they don't really have it as an ebook. Oh, wait, no, here it is. Okay, so that's good. So let's click on that. And we're going to borrow it. This title is available for 21 days after you borrow it. And you can either stream it or you can download it, which is kind of cool. So I bumped that by mistake. Let's go back and do, how about the Awesome Friendly Adventures by Raleigh Jefferson's Awesome Friendly Adventures. That's by Jeff Kinney. That'll be fun. Let's borrow that one. Okay, we're going to borrow it. So we're borrowing the title. Again, you have to give it a couple of minutes to actually download. See, it's downloading. It's not finished. But in Hoopla, you can watch it progress, which is kind of cool. Hoopla's a really great app because it really is super user-friendly. And so download. It's almost there. And there it is. And now I'm going to read it. And read-along books ebooks allow you to listen to professional narration while you read a book. That's cool. That is really cool. So we're going to read it. Loading the book. Here it is. Okay. There's the map. Here's the beginning of the book. There's the front page. And chapter 1. Here we go. Once upon a time in a land far away, there lived a boy named Roland. So you get the idea. It's really easy to use. And what's great about it is if you borrow this, someone else can still borrow it at the same time. So those are the big apps that we want to let you know about. There's the Sales mobile app. There's the Libby app and there's the Hoopla app, and they all are really powerful and great tools for you to learn how to use when you want to read a book. So that's all I've got to say about that. Okay. I hope you got a lot out of that. It was fairly spontaneous. The best thing to do is just download the apps to your phone and just kind of play around with them. Now, as I said in the presentation, you do need a library card. Now, you can get a library card by just coming into the library or giving us, why don't you just give us a phone call and check and see if your library card is handy. You can put your library card right onto your phone so you don't even have to worry about keeping track of your physical library card. We want everyone in West Bridgewater to have a library card because a library card is really the key to all the content that we have available to you. Okay? So that's going to be really important. And the more you use the apps, the better you'll get at them. You can show your parents and your younger brothers and sisters how to do them too. And you can really find some enjoyable books to read, either together or on your own. Okay, so let's get started. The first book on the list is called Cub. And what's fun about this is a couple things. First of all, it is a graphic novel. We have a lot of graphic novels in the library. And if this one doesn't appeal to you, come in and look for some other ones. We've got a ton of them. What's great about this is it's set back in the early 70s, which probably seems like ancient history to you. But it is a story of Cindy, who is going into middle school, and she wants to become a reporter. She loves to write, and she loves to investigate. And so Cub is a book about how she becomes an intern at a local newspaper. She learns from some of the adults at the newspaper how to become an investigative reporter. And then also just trials and tribulations of middle school and all that involves. So I think some of you will really enjoy that. The second book I want to tell you about is called Connect the Dots. And it's really kind of a fascinating book. And it really talks about whether things are a coincidence or is there a reason for things to happen. So you get introduced to Oliver and Matilda and Oliver's friend Frank, and they have discovered that in their small town there was a genius who was in the class, the graduating class in high school, of Oliver's mother. But he's disappeared. No one knows where he is. He has been on the track to win a Nobel Prize in physics or in mathematics, but he just disappeared. So a lot of the story is about what happened to him, and will the kids be able to find out what happened to him? As well as, you've got a lot of these books are stories about kids whose parents are doing crazy things, and they try to tell them, stop doing that, and the parents do it anyway. So it's pretty amusing, but it's sort of an exciting book. There's a real climax to the ending. Okay, another set of books I want to tell you about is the Track series. These are 4 books. I just brought 2 of them with me today. These are really great reads about a track team, a middle school track team. Each book focuses on one of the members of the team. There's Ghost. He's called Ghost because he runs so fast. It's like you think you've seen a ghost when he runs by. And then Patina and Lou and Sunny. And they are each a member of the track team. They're all very good runners. And they compete together and are a little competitive with each other. And then they have to learn how to overcome many obstacles in their lives to coalesce around their team and become a winning team. So it's a really good sports story. They're all good sports stories, so you might enjoy those if you're into sports. And we have other sports stories in the library as well. So if you're looking for that, just let us know at the desk, and we'll be happy to help you with that. Okay, the next book I want to tell you about is called Breakout. This is amazing. This is based on a true story. Okay, this is about a couple of kids who live way upstate in New York State, and there happens to be a prison in this town, and a lot of people work at the prison. Their parents work at the prison, and what happens is 2 inmates break out of the prison, and everybody just gets really frightened and fearful and nervous. And how did they break out? Did someone help them break out? Did they have an accomplice on the outside? This is based on a true story, so the author had heard about this story, and then she wrote this book. One of the things I want to tell you about this book is, which is really cool, is that it's a combination of narration and also of things like emails and text messages and signage that's put up on the bulletin boards. It's just a kind of an amazing way that she put together all sorts of different modes of communication, and you're just going to fly through it. It's really fast and exciting, and there's just a sense of urgency because no one knows, like, where are the inmates? You know, are they going to do something horrible on the outside, and who helped them? So I highly recommend Breakout. It was very exciting. Another book that you might find interesting is called Tiny Infinities. Now, this is kind of a sports story, too, because the girl in this story, Alice, is on a swim team. She's very dedicated to swimming. And she finds a lot of relaxation and also continuity in her life is a kind of a mess. She's got all sorts of problems going on in her family, and her mother has been in a terrible accident, so she's in a wheelchair, and her father lives somewhere else, and swimming becomes her safety zone. And then she also meets a next-door neighbor who doesn't speak, and becomes a babysitter for this little girl. So it's a very interesting story, and she discovers a lot about herself, and she discovers that people in her life know her in ways that she doesn't know herself at all. So it's kind of fun, and that frequently does happen. That, you know, people can tell you something about yourself that you think is like a revelation that you never thought of before. That's what happens to Alice in Tiny Infinities. Another book I want to tell you about, which is pretty exciting, it's another book by Avi. Now, Avi has written a ton of books for younger kids, older kids. He writes historical fiction, he writes mysteries, he writes realistic books. This one is called School of the Dead, and it's very exciting. It's about Tony, whose Uncle Gilbert has a good, strong relationship with his Uncle Gilbert. His Uncle Gilbert comes and moves into Tony's family, his house, and then Uncle Gilbert dies. But Tony kind of feels like he has a sense of Uncle Gilbert. It's a ghost story. He has a sense of Uncle Gilbert, and sometimes he sees Uncle Gilbert, and then he vanishes. So it's really strange. And Uncle Gilbert is Uncle Gilbert kind of controlling Tony's life? Is he leading him down a certain path to, good or evil? This is an exciting book. He meets a lot of people at this new school that he goes to in San Francisco. And there's just a jam-packed whiz-bang ending to this one. School of the Dead. Very exciting. Another book that I'd like to tell you about is Eventown. This is kind of creepy, too, in a way. Eventown is a place that these 2 twin girls moved to with their mom. And it just seems perfect. Everything about Eventown is perfect. All the buildings are beautiful. There's no garbage. There's no dirt. There's no, nothing is a mess at all. And Elodie, one of the twins, becomes suspicious. Like, what is up with this? It's almost too perfect. But her twin thinks it's great, and her mom thinks it's great. They all are like, "Oh my God, this is like the best place that we've ever lived." And then they realize something else is going on here. Dun, 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 dun. Yeah, it's a good one. Eventown. Okay, so now some adventure stories. This is really great. Now I want to preface Race to the Sun, which was a fantastic book. I read it last weekend. I want to preface this by saying this is called a Rick Riordan Presents book. How many of you have read the Percy Jackson books by Rick Riordan or the Mount Olympus books? I know a lot of you have. Now, Rick Riordan has wrote all those books, and he became really super popular and a big selling, a best-selling author. And what he did with his fame is really awesome. What he did was he created what they call in the publishing world an imprint. So Rick Riordan Presents is an imprint, and all the books that Rick Riordan is pressing into your hands, in a way, have that imprint on the book. Rick Riordan Presents. And what's really cool about these books, each book is set in a different cultural setting. An exciting thing about Race to the Sun, the cultural setting of this is the Navajo Reservation in Arizona. And Shiprock, you may want to look up Shiprock. Google it. Google the image of Shiprock. It's this amazing, huge mountain that is actually just the leftovers of a volcano that has been eroded, and all that's left is the pipe of the lava in the volcano. It's called Shiprock. Anyway, the kids in this story, Nizoni Begay is the heroine of the story. She has special powers, and so does her brother. She can see monsters that are dressed as normal people. So she plays basketball, and the story begins when she's playing basketball, and in the bleachers is her father's new boss, and she looks at him and she sees him as he really is, which is a monster. He looks normal to everybody else, and everybody thinks she's totally nuts. He's not a monster. He's just a guy who happens to be your father's boss. And she's like, no, he's up to no good. Then her father gets kidnapped by the monster boss, and Nizoni and her brother and her friend need to go on a journey to Spirit Mountain and collect some extra powers that will allow her and allow them to free her father. And there's a big battle scene at the end of the book. It's very exciting. Everything is connected to Navajo myth and culture. So I think you are really going to enjoy that. The next book I'm going to tell you about is another Rick Riordan Presents. It's all very exciting. We just talked about the book that's set in Navajo country. This book is set in Korea, and it's set way in the future. It's about this girl who is, her name is Min, and she lives on a planet with her parents. Her older brother has joined the Space Cadets, which is kind of like the Army, but, in space. And they've been told by the Space Academy that he's done something terrible, and he's run away. And Min is like, what? That can't be. My brother is a brave and honorable young man. He would never do that. And so Dragon Pearl is the name of the book. And Min has to go on a journey to find her brother and find out what happened to make this whole thing fall apart. It's very exciting, and she's a shapeshifter, so there's a lot of magic involved in this as well. So it's a really very exciting book, and I have a feeling that this book might end up being a graphic novel as well. Okay, speaking of graphic novels, Artemis Fowl has a graphic novel format. Some of you may know the story of Artemis Fowl. There was a movie, and now Artemis Fowl is in graphic format, which is really exciting. Artemis Fowl and his father are fighting. They live in London, and there's an underworld, a fairy world that's kind of behind the scenes, and then they get into some kind of brouhaha with the fairies, and they're worried that this might trigger a cross-species war. So this is really exciting, and again, it's a graphic novel. It may be a story that you're familiar with already, having seen either the movie or read the books, but we're encouraging you to read the graphic novel. And the great thing about it is if you're a struggling reader, start with a graphic novel and then move into the print version of the book. Or start with the audio book and then move into the print version of the book. It's a nice way to build your skills in reading to the point where you are a fluent reader and a comfortable reader, and you actually read for pleasure. So that's kind of the name of the game here. Now, the last 3 books on our list, I don't have the physical copies of, so I'll have you look over my shoulder to see the covers of these. The first of that set is called The Problem Children. And they live in a ramshackled bungalow in the swampy woods. There's 7 of them, and it's kind of one of these goofy kids without parents stories. They're born on each of them. There's 7 of them. They're each born on a different day of the week, and they have to move into their grandpa's bizarre old mansion in Lost Cove. No problem for the problem children, because every problem is a gift. So that's the Problem Children. And that's a series, by the way. If you read the first one, there are other books in the series to read as well, which is always fun. The next book I want to tell you about, I actually read this book a couple of years ago. It's called The Skeleton Tree by Ian Lawrence. Now, Ian Lawrence is a really great adventure writer. He's written books about the Buccaneers. He's written books about different pirates and that sort of thing, and the English Navy and stuff. But this book is completely different. It's set in today's times in Canada, and it starts off with 12-year-old Chris, and his uncle is taking 12-year-old Chris and this boy who Chris doesn't really get along with named Frank. He's taking them on a seaplane trip. Unfortunately, the plane goes down. There's a crash. His uncle dies, and the only people left are Chris and Frank. And I'm not giving too much away because that happens in the first chapter. Chris and Frank have to fend for themselves in the wilderness. It reminds me a lot of Hatchet. But this is almost even more complex because there's the relationship between the 2 boys that don't get along. They've got to figure out a way to do so. They find this cabin that had been lived in for a while, but what happened to the guy who lived there? Did he die? Did he get rescued? Who knows? And then there is a raven. And if you know anything about ravens, you know that they're very smart birds. And so the raven becomes a central character in the story of the Skeleton Tree. And then the last book I want to tell you about is another old favorite. It's The Witches by Roald Dahl, but it's the graphic novel of The Witches. You probably have read Charlie and the Chocolate Factory. Roald Dahl wrote all sorts of books. The fun thing about The Witches is, and the thing with Roald Dahl is that there's always a super bad guy who's really bad. And the main characters, are always trying to figure out how to defeat them. In The Witches, witches are really bad. They're not just funny bad. They're really bad. And they wear ordinary clothes and have ordinary jobs, kind of like the monster in Race to the Sun. And they live in ordinary towns, and there's nothing they despise more than children. And when an 8-year-old boy and his grandmother come face to face with the Grand High Witch herself at a witch convention, believe it or not, in a hotel, they are the only ones who can stop the witch's latest plot to stamp out every last child in the country. How about that? That's a lot of fun. Roald Dahl is always, the kids are always against the grown-ups, and it's always a topsy-turvy world. And his language is always funny and delightful. And I think you're really going to enjoy the new graphic novel of The Witches. So that's the end of the book talk. And the message I'd like to leave you with is that you can get any of these books that I've talked about, or a book similar to it, by placing a hold in the library network system, or downloading an ebook or an audiobook from Libby or Hoopla, and you can enjoy